Imagine waking up on your 36th birthday in the Stone Age. According to one of the most famous statistics in human history, you should already be dead, not sick, not dying. Dead for decades, people have repeated the same fact. Ancient humans lived only 30 to 35 years. It appears in documentaries, textbooks, podcasts, and casual conversations. The image it creates is simple. Exhausted hunter-gatherers becoming old before they even reached 40. It sounds believable. After all, there were no hospitals, no antibiotics, no vaccines, no emergency rooms. Every cut could become infected. Every winter could become deadly. So of course people died young, right? Not exactly, because that famous number is hiding something enormous. Something so important that it completely changes how we see our ancestors. The truth is that the statistic most people use to prove ancient humans died young doesn't actually mean what they think it means. And the clue to solving the mystery isn't an old skeleton, a prehistoric hunter, or even a dangerous animal. It's a newborn child. The story of why early humans supposedly never lived past 35 seems straightforward. Life was brutal. People died young. End of story. But when scientists began examining ancient populations more carefully, they discovered a problem. The evidence wasn't matching the popular narrative. Again and again, archaeologists found signs of people who had clearly lived long lives. They found elderly men, elderly women, people with decades of wear on their joints. People who had survived injuries years before they died. The deeper researchers looked, the stranger the mystery became. If ancient humans were all dying at 35, where were all these old people coming from? To answer that question, we need to look at the statistic that fooled almost everyone. Life expectancy at birth sounds simple, but it can be incredibly misleading. Imagine a small, prehistoric community with 10 newborn children. 5 die before reaching their 5th birthday. The other 5 survive and live to 70. The average life expectancy of the group becomes about 36 years. But notice something strange. Nobody actually dies of old age at 36. Half die very young, half become elderly. The number exists only as an average. This is the secret hidden inside the famous Stone Age lifespan statistic. When historians say life expectancy was around 35, they are often including everyone who died during infancy and childhood. And childhood was unbelievably dangerous. Imagine entering the world thousands of years ago. You are completely vulnerable. A minor infection could become fatal. Contaminated water could kill. A fever could kill. Diseases that modern medicine treats in days could become death sentences. For many children, the most dangerous years of life were the very first ones. This is what dragged average life expectancy downward. Not adults suddenly becoming old at 35. But the story becomes even more surprising, because once someone survived childhood, their future looked very different. Researchers studying traditional hunter-gatherer populations discovered that individuals who reached adolescence often had a realistic chance of living decades longer. The prehistoric world was dangerous, but a prehistoric world, a place where everyone automatically dropped dead before middle age. In fact, one of the biggest turning points in human history made the situation even worse. And that turning point was farming. Most people think agriculture improved human life immediately. It didn't. At least not at first. Before farming, humans lived in relatively small groups, spread across large territories. When disease appeared, it often struggled to spread very far. There simply weren't enough people packed together. Then humans began settling down. Villages appeared. Populations grew. Animals lived alongside humans. Waste accumulated. Water became contaminated. For the first time in history, diseases had exactly what they needed. Large numbers of people living close together. What should have been a breakthrough became a biological trap. Epidemics spread more easily. New diseases jumped from animals into humans, and children paid the highest price. Ironically, one of humanity's greatest achievements initially made many communities less healthy. But disease wasn't the only threat waiting for ancient people. Imagine being pregnant thousands of years ago. Today, a difficult birth can often be managed with modern medicine. Back then, there was no emergency surgery, no antibiotics, no blood transfusions, no intensive care. A single complication could turn deadly within hours. For women, every birth carried risk. And because families often had many children, that risk accumulated over a lifetime. Then there was everything else: hunting accidents, violence, starvation, extreme weather falls, animal attacks. Life constantly tested human survival. Yet despite all these dangers, large numbers of people still managed to reach old age. We know this because their bones tell the story. Ancient skeletons frequently show severe arthritis. They show decades of wear on teeth and joints. They show healed fractures that required years of survival after injury. Some individuals clearly lived long enough to become elderly by any reasonable standard. So why did the myth survive for so long? Partly because studying ancient skeletons is incredibly difficult. Determining the exact age of a person who died thousands of years ago is not like checking a birth certificate. Scientists rely on clues found in bones and teeth. The problem is that these clues become less reliable with age. Distinguishing a 45-year-old skeleton from a 65-year-old skeleton can be surprisingly challenging. As a result, researchers sometimes underestimated how many ancient people reached advanced ages. As new methods improved, scientists repeatedly discovered that earlier studies had painted an incomplete picture. Ancient populations were often older than researchers originally believed. And then there is one final clue. A clue hidden inside human evolution itself. Humans possess something unusual. Women often live decades beyond their reproductive years. From a purely evolutionary perspective, that seems strange. Why would natural selection preserve a trait that serves no purpose? One possible answer is known as the grandmother hypothesis. Imagine a prehistoric tribe facing a brutal winter. Food is scarce. Children are hungry. Young parents are struggling to survive. The strongest hunter may provide 2 meals. But an elderly grandmother remembers something more valuable. She remembers where food was found during the last famine. She remembers safe plants, hidden water sources, migration routes, survival strategies learned over decades. Her knowledge becomes a tool for survival. In some situations, it may have been the difference between life and death. The existence of older adults wasn't a biological accident. Their experience helped entire families survive. And that suggests something important. Growing old was common enough to matter. Common enough to shape the evolution of our species. So why didn't early humans live past 35? The answer is that many of them did. The famous statistic was never really about adults dying young. It was about how many children never got the chance to grow old. Our ancestors weren't collapsing from old age at 35. They were surviving one of the harshest filters in human history. Those who made it through childhood often lived far longer than the myth suggests. Modern civilization did not suddenly invent old age. What it truly did was reduce the countless dangers that once killed people long before old age could arrive. We didn't create the possibility of living to 70. Our ancestors already had it. We simply gave far more people the chance to get there.